Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, Nintendo's putting out a new Switch bundle, and it'll only set you back 300 bells. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including that adorable Animal Crossing Switch. And then on Thursday, we're going to be digging for hidden gems in old but not ancient hardware, per a tweet from a listener. But in the meantime, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing so good. I'm getting oriented to being on this side of the table.
Look, this is it's behind the curtains, right? We are recording for the first time today on my new computer. My computer got wet, which of course means that it is broken
Irreparably.
It cannot be done. Is broken forever, evidently. And so I've got a new MacBook Air, and the ports are on opposite sides, and so I have switched us at the table.
I feel like this is good for us, and I'm not saying that this is like the middle point for the existence of this show.
Right.
But I'd like in like basketball games or football games when the teams switch sides after halftime, because it gives everybody, a good view of us.
So
your neighbors who are walking by,
of course,
do
you view us as competing on this podcast?
It doesn't really matter what I think. I think our listeners have made it clear.
Okay, all right.
It's very evident that we are in like a death match.
Right. And there can only be one of us that comes out on the other side.
And then the show ends.
In death, probably.
Yeah.
No, Mark, the show will probably end in us having to play through Sonic Forces together, right? Would you like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch? You can. All you got to do is write into us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com and give us a mailing address so we can send it. My copy of the game has been out of our hands for a while now. I trust that it is still fine.
This happened to us once before.
It did.
In actually probably about this same time of year last year.
That's interesting,
Where Sonic Forces was gone for like 6 months.
Yeah, here's what I bet it is. I bet people are getting it ahead of Valentine's Day and then really settling in with it.
Yeah.
Like they want to make sure they've got it for date night.
Well, especially because the Sonic the Hedgehog movie
totally
comes out on Valentine's Day.
That's correct.
Yeah. So what you're saying makes complete sense to me.
Also coming out just a little bit before Valentine's Day on the 12th, I have got an issue of Transformers that I wrote. It is the Transformers Valentine's Day issue. This is a real thing.
Yeah, this is so cool.
This is a real issue of a real comic book published by IDW. It's part of Transformers canon, and it's real, and two robots are snuggling in it. It's going to be great.
That's amazing.
So February 12th, make sure that you go and pick it up.
Yeah, because here's something that happened last week is I kind of said that if you left us a review on the Apple Podcast Store, left us a 5-star review, that I would send you a signed copy of Patrick's Transformers comic.
Now, that's interesting because I don't even remember you setting up that incentive structure so much as just saying, like, we can send people signed copies.
Oh, okay.
I don't even
think, manifested itself because somebody actually did that this past week. So thank you so much to that person. Are you looking up their name right now?
I am looking it up.
Okay, perfect. But here's the thing.
Thank you to A.V. Guevara.
Yeah, thank you very much. But we need your, because I am going to send you a signed copy of, signed by Patrick. I should make that clear. I'm not going to sign it.
If you would like Mark to sign it.
What a waste that would be. Of Patrick's Transformers comic. I would love AV to send you one. You will need to send us an email with your information so I can do that.
Right, and you just send that to Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com. And as part of that, I decided, I could do that for 5 or 10 people.
Whoa.
So if you would like a signed copy of Patrick's Transformer comic signed by Patrick, and maybe I'll sign like an index card and stick it in there or something.
As to not deface your copy of the comic.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, you can leave us a review, send us an email saying you left the review, maybe screenshot it. That'd be nice, especially if you're not leaving it in the Apple Podcast Store.
Yeah.
And
and thank you, AV Guevara, for braving the Apple iTunes, or the American iTunes store. He said he can't stand it, so we're lucky to have that there.
Yes.
So I do appreciate people using storefronts that they do not like, that they don't know how to navigate. And look, leaving a review is not quite as intuitive as it probably should be.
No.
So I appreciate whenever anyone does it.
Absolutely.
Is there one more thing we need to get to? Or did we do it all?
I think we did it all.
All right, great. Okay, then let's get into what we've been playing. Okay, so last week I went on the Hit Points podcast, which is, of course, hosted by our friends and guests on this show, Matt Acevedo and Emily Rose Jacobson, and also Naeem Stewart, who hasn't been on the show yet, but we'll get him on at some point. And we talked mostly about Wii U ports on the Switch. So it's a good, fun episode. So go there and check it out. But I'm bringing it up because I talked an awful lot about Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition, which none of the three of them had played. I basically spent the first 20 minutes of the show selling them on it. So I won't really, I've talked about it a lot on this show as well, so I'm not going to like double down on it here. But if you want to hear more of me talking about Dragon Quest and maybe like a little bit of a like more in-depth light, you can go over to that show and check that out. But I also wanted to bring up that we have a listener who has been playing Dragon Quest, Dustin, sort of on our recommendation. And Dustin rolled credits this last week.
Whoa, that's awesome.
So congratulations, Dustin. You're nowhere near done with the game, heads up. Just so you know, when the credits roll, there's still a whole like other section of the game. So Dustin and I have actually been emailing back and forth a little bit. And he wrote something meaty here. So Mark, with your permission, I'd like to read some excerpts from Dustin's email.
Yeah, please.
Dustin says, first of all, I'm so glad that I played this game. It's the first modern JRPG I have played, and I love it. Skipping a little bit here, he says, please note that although the game fully deserves the grandiose title of Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition, I'm going to save time and space and just call it DQ11. From here on out, I want to make it clear that it's not meant as a slight to the game. Dustin, I want you to know that I read it as a slight to the game.
Interesting that he doesn't care about our feelings.
No, not at all. So the couple things that he wanted to like call out and really like praise that I think are like totally worth sharing here and not at all like spoilery or whatever. The first thing he highlights are the quality of life improvements. So here are his sort of bullet points. The recap when I start the game reminds me where I left off and is amazing. I never forgot where I was going or what I was doing next the whole time I played, which is one of the most crucial things about Dragon Quest XI's is that you can put it down, you can forget what you're doing, and then you can come back and the game is immediately like putting you back like in the right place, pointing you in the right direction. You never feel lost. Zooming to any previously visited place at any time was awesome. No airship to navigate around, and no backtracking was so nice. Zoom, Mark, is a spell in Dragon Quest. I don't know if it's in all the other games.
I think so.
Where you just zoom to another, like a town or a previous campsite. The tactics for auto-battling, auto-saving, being able to hit one button to heal everyone in menus outside of battles. Shared experience for the entire party rather than just the ones who were in the lineup made me much more willing to try out all the characters. This was huge. So, just really bringing it home, bringing it home to emphasize how great just like the little little ways that Dragon Quest improves the gameplay experience.
And anytime you're playing a game for, like 50 hours, having all those little things, all those rough edges smoothed makes such a big difference.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before, that like, when it's something that is happening over and over again, if you have to like get up and like go through a door and like the thing stops and go, like every time there's like one more barrier, one more button push, one more second of loading, it's like one less. You just want to do it less. And it's great how well this game like kind of fixes a lot of that. Dustin goes over like quite a bit here, and we could probably make a whole episode out of just reading Dustin's email. Dustin, I appreciate everything you wrote. I love it. I also cannot wait for Dragon Quest 12 to come out. I think they can count both of us as like lifelong fans of the series now.
That's awesome. And we love hearing about
totally
like any games you're playing, even if they're games that we haven't experienced yet. Yeah, you. Anytime people share anything with us, it makes me really happy.
Oh yeah, I love having things shared with us. You can always email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com,
and we will read every email that comes our way. Mark, I also played and finished Celeste this last week. And since I'm 2 years late to the game, I won't belabor the point, but what a great game.
That's awesome. How long did it take you? Because it took me, I would guess, about 10 hours, but it seems like, did you fly through it much faster than that?
My play clock was at like 7 hours, maybe like 7 and a quarter. And I didn't use any of the cheats.
That's awesome.
But I also didn't get all the strawberries or B-sides or whatever. But man, the that last like chunk of the game where it's just like straight up vertical climb is so fun and so cool, and I really, really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I loved that game when I played it. I went through the whole thing. I didn't get all the strawberries without cheats until the very end, where like the last level there was like one jump. It's like counting off as you climb up.
Yeah, that's the part that I was just saying. I loved.
Yeah, so there was like one jump that I just could not make.
Gotta keep.
And I got so frustrated that I was just like, it's it. I'm done. Turned on all the cheats.
Yep.
And just like made my way through the rest of the game. And I've never regretted it. I've never regretted it for a moment. I've been kind of wanting just really, because I have Dragon Quest 11S Echoes of a Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch to play myself. But I have been longing for game experiences that are really like non-committal.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've just been playing Super Mario Brothers 3, kind of like slowly making my way through it, kind of doing what I did as a kid where it'd be like, for this world, I'm not going to use any power-ups at all, or, just like finding like small variations on that, but I am enjoying that it's a game that I'm so familiar with that I can at any moment just be like, and I don't want to play this ever again, but there's no like guilt attached to not continuing,
Well, because you've also already played it.
Right, exactly. I also, I don't know if you or our listeners got this, but I got a mysterious survey from Nintendo that was just like in my emails, just like, do you want to take this, like survey? We'd love your opinions. And it didn't tell me what it's about or anything. And I was like, yes, 100%.
Anyone who will listen to my opinions.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You just fell into my trap. So I and it turned out to be all about Pokemon Sword and Shield. It was really interesting in like the stuff that they were asking, where it was like, oh, they listed a bunch of new features in Pokemon Sword and Shield, and they were like, which of these are like features that you bought the game for? Which ones did you like? Which of these did you not like? How far into the game did you get? Have you heard about the DLC? Are you going to buy the DLC? What can you tell us about the DLC? Just like all that kind of stuff.
Do you host a Nintendo podcast?
Right, yeah, exactly. We have heard that Pokemon Sword and Shield is very nearly, it's shipped, it's over 16 million copies. Like, it is very nearly the best-selling Pokemon game of all time, I think. And I wonder if the reaction to it has kind of caused them to drill down into like why it kind of exploded the way that it did.
Yeah, especially if they were like tracking it as not as positive before release,
right?
Like you would think that would definitely make them go like, okay, what did happen?
Right.
Here? Yeah. We also it has been like a week now, but Byleth has been playable in Super Smash Brothers, and so I went in to give them a try, and I like the way Byleth controls, like way heavier than I was expecting.
Oh, interesting.
And at first I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna play as like regular old Byleth. But the 5th costume option, baby, that's the one that looks like Claude. And so that's all I do. I just want him to look like Claude, and it is Beautiful. All right, so that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
Today, February 4th, Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 3, is released.
Okay, so I mean, come on. Is it just a Monster Energy drink commercial? The game?
Well, I don't know. Maybe is Monster Energy Supercross a thing that exists in the real world, right? Like it's a Supercross tournament or something.
Sure, that is famously sponsored by
Monster Energy drink. And it's just we just don't know about it.
So I would be willing to believe that if not for the subtitle of this game, which is the official video game 3.
See, that makes me think that it is.
What?
But the part, because it's the official video game of Monster Energy Supercross, the part that I take objection with is the 3 at the end.
The 3 is confusing.
Shouldn't it be Monster Energy Supercross 3, the official video game? But I guess not. Again, it goes back to, I think Monster Energy Supercross is like a trademarked term.
See, if they had done Monster Energy Supercross 2020, the official video game, or the official video game 2020, like that I would be a little bit more on board with. The fact that it's just the official video game 3.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with that.
Also on the Switch eShop is the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance Tactics.
This is a game that was supposed to come out last summer.
Was it? I can't remember.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume at one point it was supposed to be tied with the release of the television show.
You bet it was.
Yeah.
And got pushed back for whatever reason. I haven't seen any like early reviews of it. But it is, it's not a Switch exclusive. It's coming out on like PlayStation, possibly like PC and other,
I think it
other
was.
places.
Was it revealed for the first time in Nintendo's E3 presentation?
Or in a direct. I can't remember if it was the E3 one or not. It probably was. But it's crazy to see this thing actually coming out now.
And then on Thursday, February 6th, Wargroove Double Trouble, which is free DLC, is released.
And that's like largely focused on a lot of like co-op gameplay options in Wargroove. I was reading through what all it adds to the game, and it's a lot, and especially a lot to the creator tools. It seems like Wargroove has some hyper robust creator tools. I haven't really been in there to see what people are doing with it, but it seems like you could do just about anything.
One thing I think is interesting this generation that I feel like did not happen in the past, and maybe it's just like the way that indie devs are able to like monetize, but I feel like we've seen Ubisoft do it, like Nintendo's doing it as well. It's just like the lifespan of games is way longer, where like Wargroove is a game that I don't feel like is like on top of mind for a lot of people, but they're releasing free DLC like a year later after the game was released, and this is the second, I think, major DLC that I can remember us talking about. I was thinking the other day, like, about Katana Zero, which was a game that I liked so much, and they announced free DLC for it, and we haven't heard anything about that since. But I think it's just interesting and cool to see it instead of people immediately moving on to like Katana Zero 2.
Yeah,
that it's like they can continue to like work on this game. I mean, we saw it with Shovel Knight as well,
and with The Messenger.
And I'm sure that's contingent on like the game selling well.
Yeah, but it's interesting that the impulse is like the game made us a lot of money. Let's put that money back into developing more game
for free a lot of times.
For free, yeah. And obviously it does increase then like the perceived value of the game, because then people who are buying it new are like, oh, there's more stuff here, and it's kind of back in the cultural conversation again when people who played it in the first place are like, oh, I can go back and play this game more. So yeah, that's it is interesting to see that as a strategy that's become common, not just for like selling DLC packs, but just as like a thing indie games do because they can.
Right. And then also on February 6th, Knights and Bikes, Knights with a K, of course, is released.
Which is a cute looking game that was on other platforms before, where you're like kids in a neighborhood on bicycles having like a fantasy RPG time. It seems cool. All right. Let's let's get out of the new releases. Now it's time for a regular segment on the show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, today we're going to be talking about hotel breakfasts. Do you have what do you hope for when you're staying at a hotel? Do you hope for like a continental breakfast? Do you hope for...
I don't think, does anybody hope for a continental breakfast?
So a couple Christmases ago, I went to Colorado Springs to see my brother, and we stayed at a hotel, and it was nice to know that even though it was just like a continental breakfast, I think they may have also been like a thing of scrambled eggs or something. That like every morning we could at least start with like a meal that we like knew and could trust.
Sure.
So
and I think that is the beauty of a hotel breakfast, right?
Yeah, that it's like reliable.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, I don't normally have a bagel, but like I can have a bagel.
Well, see, I love staying in hotels.
Mm.
And so
Why do you love staying in hotels?
I don't know. I just think it's so much fun. I really do. I love staying in hotels.
Okay.
And so, like, a hotel breakfast, I'm like, yeah, this is great. I don't have to leave. Perfect.
Well, okay, so you were saying that like no one looks forward to a continental breakfast.
I don't think anybody looks forward to a continental breakfast.
Okay, so when you say a hotel breakfast, what do you...
You know, I'm talking like sometimes hotels have buffets.
Yeah.
You know, where you're getting like a variety of just fine breakfast foods.
Yeah.
You know, because in general, breakfast foods are pretty hard to mess up.
Okay, I guess maybe I need to broach this one. What is the difference between what you just described and a continental breakfast?
So continental breakfasts usually don't have, you know, like eggs, waffles, anything like that. A continental breakfast usually is like, we'll have some pastries, right? Everything is already like prepared. Basically, they can set out, you know, trays of pastries or bagels and some juice, and then they're like, there you go, you animals.
Sure. So I feel like I usually see something that is like the Continental Plus, where where like it'll be that, and then like one hot tray of eggs, and like the waffle iron with a like pitcher of batter next to it.
Yeah. See, so I think that's perfect. That's checking all the boxes.
How do you feel about like a omelet bar with like a man standing behind it?
So I love it. But I feel like I never take full advantage of it because I'm not crazy about omelets.
'Cause you're a coward?
I'm a coward. I don't want to talk to people. I write my order down on a piece of paper, slip it to them, never make eye contact.
That's right.
No, normally I'm just like, I'll just have scrambled eggs. And like, what do you want in it? Sometimes they don't even ask. They don't care. They don't care. They get paid either way.
What sometimes there's just like a man slicing ham. What's that about? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know 100% what you're talking about.
He's standing there in like the tall chef's hat.
Yeah, and there's like a heat lamp.
Yes.
And there's like a ham. I mean, I don't think there's any mystery. I think he'll just
just
slice
a ham
you ham
man?
if he. Yeah.
Why does it need to be freshly sliced?
I think it's
Does that make it
just,
better?
I think it makes it fancier for sure.
Yeah.
Right? Because you know that it's coming. I mean, I don't know what the actual benefit to you is because somebody with a tall hat could be slicing it behind the scenes, putting it on a plate, then bringing it out. But for whatever reason,
Yeah, that's what I'm
having
saying.
it be sliced off the ham with you in front of it
Sure.
makes it feel.
You're witnessing something.
Well, okay, because I do think one of the things that people, including myself, don't always love about buffets is that it doesn't feel like
yes.
it's like being prepared for you. And even though a lot of times, you know, food behind the scenes obviously is not being prepared for you specifically, it definitely, you like that illusion. You're willing to pay more for that illusion.
Absolutely. I was recently at a hotel when my friend Pete and I went to Disneyland. We stayed at a hotel that had like a restaurant in it. And so we went down to that restaurant for breakfast on like our second day. And that was luxurious. You know, it's like where the side of fruit is like a big bowl of fruit.
Oh, yeah.
It was great. It was like going to a brunch place.
And like, I'm sure you were paying through the nose for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I love that. And here's the other thing that for whatever reason, I think maybe I'd make like a good prisoner of war or something because I love going to the airport and eating at the airport.
You are insane.
I know, 'cause the
What
food
are
is
you
not
talking
good.
about?
I don't know. It's
what do
just,
you like eating
part
at
of
the
the
airport?
whole airport experience.
Do you like Guy Fieri's food? Do you like who else is
Wolfgang
Puck? Do you like that kind of food?
Puck? No, I mean not particularly. The food is never good. It's overpriced.
Do you like eating at the museum?
No, museum food is not good.
It's the same thing.
No,
it's the
categorically
same thing.
museum food gross.
The only eat at the airport that I will support is
Chili stew.
Well, sort of have a drink at the airport. Because you can have a drink at the airport anytime, day or night. It could be 10 o'clock in the morning. You can have a drink. No one's gonna look twice. It's gonna be great.
It's true. They're like, maybe he just flew in from Japan.
Yeah. Boy, are his arms tired.
Yeah.
So what do you get at the airport for breakfast? What do you?
I don't know. I guess depends on what's open. Maybe we're just going to a Hudson News and getting some Pringles.
We were accompanied today by the an ensemble at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix. All right, Mark, let's get into the news. Sorry if I'm stumbling with the music more than usual. It's their buttons are just a little bit differently placed, and I'm on the wrong side of the table, and
it's a lot.
It's a
We're
lot.
dealing with a lot. So I think we all knew this was coming, but in maybe a way that was different than what we were expecting. Nintendo has announced a new Switch bundle in celebration of Animal Crossing New Horizons.
And the monkey paw curls one finger down.
It is not a Nintendo Switch Lite, which I think everybody
Interesting
was,
development,
yeah,
right?
I think everybody was I was certainly expecting that it would be a Nintendo Switch Lite, but it's not. It's a full-fledged Switch.
You've stated multiple times on this show that you were going to hold out on getting a Nintendo Switch Lite,
right?
Because you wanted the inevitable.
I would have bet a significant amount of money
right.
that a Nintendo Switch Lite was going to come out that was like an Animal Crossing special edition.
Well, what do we have?
Well, we have a super chill,
baby,
pastel blue and green Joy-Cons that are sort of like bone white on the back and on the Joy-Con straps.
Yeah, it's really, really sleek.
Yeah.
Like they look really, really smart. And it makes me, the white makes me wish that that's what my Switch was.
Would be so cool.
If the whole thing was just that white. Oh, man.
The system itself has like island and villagers etched onto the back.
Cool.
And it's like really classy looking. And then the dock is gorgeous.
It is a stunning piece of modern visual art.
It's the same like bone white color as the back of the Joy-Cons, and has a drawing of Tom Nook and his nephews. I think we determine they are sons.
Yeah,
the clones,
the kids who live with him.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Timmy and Tommy on an island. It's just adorable.
Yeah, it's super chill, and I love it. And I covet this thing. Do you covet this thing, Mark?
I covet against the commandment.
Yes,
I do.
Thou
do
shalt
covet
not
it.
Covet the new Switch bundle.
So interestingly, in the US, it's not a bundle per se, in the sense that it doesn't come with Animal Crossing New Horizons, but it does in Europe or at least in Europe.
Interesting.
It does come with a download code for the game. Maybe the pricing is different. Here in the US, we're getting it on March 13th, which is a full 1 week before the game is released, for $299.99, which is the same price as a regular Wii. And by Wii, I mean Switch.
That's right. And as previously stated, it does not include a download code or a physical copy of the game itself.
So this is the newer version of the Switch, which came out last year, that has improved battery performance. And they're also selling a New Horizons themed carrying case for $25. It's this one I also covet.
Me
it's
too.
White and has like cool green leaves on it. It just looks really nice.
Yeah, I love this thing, and I want it, but I'm also I don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason that it would be nice to have it would be for that improved battery life, and it looks amazing. But my current Switch is fine.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Where this is so sleek looking, but I don't want to pay $300 for a new Switch.
I wonder if GameStop is still running that same trade-in deal that they had around the time that the new model Switches were coming out last year. where it was like trade in for like $100 or $200 value or something like that, so that the upgrade to the new Switch is only like $100.
Right.
We may need to look.
We
may need to look into that.
Some more investigating.
Yeah.
Into that. Cool new Animal Crossing bundle notwithstanding, Nintendo has told their investors that they are not preparing a new model of Switch for 2020. There were some rumors, or I guess maybe like an analyst or something had come out saying that they were expecting a new Switch model in 2020, but Nintendo pretty much shut that down.
Right. The fabled Switch Pro, which if you listen to any of our prediction episodes, first of all, I'm telling you now, Nintendo will never release a product called the Switch Pro. They will never trick you into thinking that playing games is your profession. Never. They will never try to do that. And then I believe that in our predictions we said that there will not be a new like Switch hardware release. That's not. They're just gonna get out of the way of new hardware revisions from Microsoft and Sony.
So instead of a new like hardware, they're focusing on continuing to support the base Switch model and the Switch Lite, which launched less than 6 months ago, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing to just like keep in perspective is that like anyone that was expecting Nintendo to put out a new version of the Switch this year, they just put out a new version less than half a year ago.
We also learned that combined, the Switch and Switch Lite have sold 52.48 million units. That means that it has outsold the Super Nintendo,
which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Other fun tidbits from the investor meeting last week: 15 million Nintendo Switch Online subscribers.
That's a lot of Tetris 99 players.
Nintendo is developing titles that have not been publicly announced. That was a big surprise coming out of the meeting. I think we all assumed that they were done.
The sarcastic surprise.
Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield have surpassed the sales record set by Pokemon Sun and Moon. I think that's for like the time period between release and now.
Or something, yeah.
And then Luigi's Mansion 3 has sold 4 million copies in sell-through, which means sold to consumers in its first 9 weeks. That's twice as fast as Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon in the same period, as in not the 9 weeks are the same amount of time,
right?
But it is sold twice as many units.
Mark, let me ask you this. How many people do you think bought Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon in that time period? in the actual nine weeks after Luigi's Mansion 3 came out?
Oh, I don't... I'm going to guess 10,000.
What?
Yeah,
I was gonna say low teens.
Yeah, probably. The game has shipped over 5 million units, so it's an interesting just to kind of see that disparity between the sell-through and the shipped number. We also got some details about Pokemon Home functionality on the Pokemon website last week.
Yep.
So after the Direct just a few weeks ago, they were like, Pokemon Home's coming in February, more details soon.
Right.
And then they dropped all this information on the website. There's a lot of detail here that's probably going to be more meaningful to like serious Pokemon players, people that have used Bank in the past.
Right. Famously, you and I we're not competitive Pokemon players.
We're the most casual of casual.
That's right. I usually don't finish them. So, we'll go through some of like the highlights here. But if you're really invested in this stuff, go to Pokemon's website, and they've got it all detailed there. There are a bunch of charts, and there are like different versions. There's a free version and a premium version. But then there's also like you can use it on your phone or on your Switch, and they all have different features and limitations in that. So check it out there.
But to give a high-level overview, so there are going to be 2 versions available, a free and premium tier. The premium pricing is like 1 month for $3, 3 months for $5, and then 1 year for $16.
So not a lot of money, more than Pokemon Bank was, which I believe was either $3.99 or $4.99 for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is obviously or at least they're envisioning it as a more fully featured system than just the bank.
There's also some pretty big limiting factors to the free version, including the lack of a judge feature and a maximum of 30 deposited Pokemon, and there's no Pokemon Bank integration.
Right. So just to reiterate on that, if you are getting the free version of Pokemon Home, you cannot transfer Pokemon from Pokemon Bank to Pokemon Home.
Either version does support a national Pokedex, so you can put any Pokemon you want in there. You can move Pokemon to Pokemon Home from the Let's Go games, but
so you can move them from Let's Go, from Go, from Pokemon Bank, from Sword and Shield. Yes, so from those 4 different places. But once they're in Home, they can only be moved to Sword and Shield.
Gotcha. So you're not gonna be able to take like a Galar region Pokemon and put them into Go. Like you can't go down the funnel. You can just push up.
You can
to Sword and
just
Shield.
push up the funnel. That's right. The one exception here is that you can move Pokemon from Let's Go Eevee to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu,
Gotcha.
or vice versa. But that's it. Also, Pokemon Go integration is not available at launch. It will be at some point, but when they start the thing, it will not be available.
You're able to access trade functionality on your mobile device. So Wonder Trade, which is a random trade feature, GTS, the global trade system, and trade rooms, where free users can participate, but they can't create rooms. Somebody else has to create it. And then Friend Trade. All will be available in Pokemon Home.
Yeah, and a lot of that seems like you can do it on the mobile device and on Switch, but it is so complicated and so nuanced, and we're so not like in that world that I was looking at it, like trying to figure it out. And it's just one of those things where I was like, do I understand video games at all?
I mean, it has flowcharts, which is crazy in the sense that it has to be like so complex.
And I love a flowchart, but I didn't understand any of this.
Last week we talked about Persona 5 Scramble, the Phantom Thieves being less of a traditional Muso or like Dynasty Warriors type game and more of a story-based action game.
We did.
But you expressed some concern about like, oh, if it is a direct continuation of Persona 5, then maybe I am not that interested in picking this up because I didn't like play or finish Persona 5. So it will not mean that much to me.
And they refuse to bring Persona 5 to the Switch. And again, per my prediction at the beginning of the year, we will not see a version of Persona 5 coming to Switch this year. Or ever.
Right. I think ever is probably a good bet.
Yeah.
Persona 5 Scramble producer Daisuke Kanata told Japanese magazine Nintendo Dream that the story of the game, which takes place 6 months after the events of Persona 5, can still be enjoyed by people who did not play the PlayStation 4 game.
Which could just be good spin, right? I don't think he would be like, oh yeah, if you haven't played Persona 5, don't bother picking up this new entry in the series.
Right. But also, I mean, not to denigrate Persona 5, a game that I have not played, but all of them seem like they lean pretty heavily into anime tropes. So I'm guessing you can pick up the characters after just like a little bit of time with them.
That is probably true. I just know that like the Persona games, and obviously like I just had this great experience with Dragon Quest, that like they build on the character relationships a lot. And like I'm at the point in the not post game of Dragon Quest where it is paying off a lot of those character relationships. And so like I like that they've at least acknowledged that you don't need to have the build up from Persona 5 to make Persona 5 Scramble meaningful.
I'm sure you'll probably appreciate it more if you didn't. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that actually means when the game comes out.
Where are you on this, like, interest-wise? Kind of zero?
I don't know. I have enjoyed Muso games in the past. Didn't play Persona 5. I really appreciate the like aesthetic of Persona 5. I think that is really fun. It's definitely like a wait and see type thing for me.
Yeah, sure.
A game I am excited to play on Switch when it comes out is The Outer Worlds, which is kind of like the Fallout-esque RPG that came out last year from Obsidian.
They're the developers of Fallout New Vegas.
New Vegas, right. And have a lot of members of the team who worked on like the original pre-Bethesda Fallout games. So we learned that the game will be available on March 6th, which is not that far away at all.
Very soon.
As has been the case with a number of big third-party releases, the physical version of the game, you can go into the store and like buy a copy, but it
Just a box.
It's just a box and a download code.
Yes.
And you're gonna have to go home and download it from the eShop.
Yes.
There is no cart version of this game.
No cart.
Not
version
even
of
like
this game.
partial cart, like LA Noire did or anything
Right.
like that.
Which makes sense and made sense for LA Noire because both those games have a lot of dialogue, a lot of like audio in them, and I know that is one of the things that like really bumps up the size of a game, and just space limitations on Switch cartridges are severe enough that any of these big third-party games end up being like download only.
Yeah, and I understand why, publishers still want to get the games into stores, especially on the Nintendo Switch, where downloads are still way less than 50% of total games sold. But
that's interesting. I wonder when they when someone redeems the code that's in their physically purchased game, how is that is that counted as a, like, as far as Nintendo's concerned, is that counted as a physical purchase or as a digital? Because it's a download.
Yeah, I don't.
Is it counted twice?
No, I'm sure
All
it's
right,
not.
Great.
Well, because with gift cards, right? When you buy a gift card for a store, the company doesn't actually realize the like value of it until it's redeemed.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
But I don't know if that's the same case for like this sort of thing, because you are buying it in a store and then it's like a separate transaction.
Yeah.
Same with like eShop cards, right? You can buy $20 eShop cards, but at what point does like Nintendo like realize
we're
that
gonna have an
revenue?
accountant on this show and we'll get to the bottom
a riveting
of this.
3-part episode. But anyways, just something to be aware of if you go to pick up the Outer Worlds in store. After teasing it since basically the launch of the Switch, Platinum Games has revealed the wonderful 101 Remastered as a Kickstarter campaign. They say that it's part of their desire to start publishing their own games instead of working through publishers. They had like a deal with Sega a few years back, all that kind of stuff. So a couple of things are a little bit weird to me about this. I'm super happy for people who were fans of the Wonderful 101 or are glad that it's coming to other platforms. So they were only asking for $50K on Kickstarter.
Interesting.
To release it on Switch. And then they had stretch goals of $250K for Steam and $500K for PlayStation 4. And it blew through those in like I think right around 2 hours. When right before we recorded, it was flirting with $1 million.
Wow.
So way more than they asked for sure. But 50,000 is basically like they were going to do it anyways. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 50,000 seems like really, really low. Are any of the like backer rewards like copies of the game?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so they're basically just trying to use Kickstarter as like a pre-order.
Right, and you could, and if you back for $40, you would get a copy of the game.
Got it.
So less than like the 60 or 50 that I'm assuming it's going to cost when it's released. Which the other part of this that I'm like, this had to have been happening no matter what, is that it was going to be released. It seems like it's being released in April 2020.
April?
Yeah, like because when you look at the backer rewards and you're looking at the game, it's like April 2020. So it feels like this was all inevitable, and this is just like free marketing for it for a game that probably wasn't going to have a big like marketing budget anyways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit before we started rolling here, and I think we both find it a little bit odd that there, and you mentioned that there like is this much of a demand for this game coming to Switch. It was a Wii U game, so obviously didn't find a huge audience just by virtue of the fact that it was on Wii U, but like I don't even remember it like reviewing particularly well or it being that like I don't have it in my like pantheon of underappreciated Wii U gems.
Well, so as part of the launch of the Kickstarter, they've been doing people from Platinum Games have been doing interviews with different outlets, and in one of them that I was reading, Hideki Kamiya, who is the director of the game, and like the director of Devil May Cry 2 and what is it, like Okami, like lots Bayonetta. So a really well-regarded video game developer. He was talking about how like some of it was he was asked specifically that was like it did not find an audience because it was on the Wii U. He was like, that was partly part of it, but it was also just that like we put a lot of ideas into it and it wasn't that refined, and so
Yeah.
like it was difficult for people to grasp and like all that kind of stuff. I like you am a little bit baffled that it has like this much hype around it.
Yeah.
I think it's harmless, and like if it's not gonna, it doesn't seem like a Mighty Number 9 situation, right? Because like the game already exists.
Yeah.
It's not like a Shenmue 3 or something like that, which
I mean, it's a little bit like Shenmue 3 in that it is a big developer / publisher who's like running a Kickstarter to get their established game on more platforms, which feels a little weird.
To me, the difference is just fundamentally that Shenmue 3 didn't exist
Sure.
previously.
Yeah.
Whereas Wonderful 101, anybody, you could go buy a copy of that for the Wii U today. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it's like
say
super
what
accessible.
you will. Say what you will about Wonderful 101. It exists.
Right. And you know its quality, right? It is like a known thing.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's cool to see people get excited about this. It's Platinum is a company that people have a lot of like strong feelings about.
Yeah.
And have like a lot of love for. And I think, they clearly have gone through like good times and bad times. And there was a little bit where like Scalebound got canceled by Microsoft. And it seems like the future of the company has kind of been in jeopardy. It's nice to see they had a hit with like Astral Chain last year.
Well, and especially with Nintendo's audience too. So
right.
like, I wonder if there's just like a little bit of excitement around that. And then also just as far as Nintendo and Switch are concerned, we've talked about this a bunch, that we don't know what the majority of Nintendo's 2020 looks like. And so just to know that there is one, sure thing Wii U port on the way, that you can effectively pre-order for $40,
right,
and will come out in April. That's a easy thing to sort of rally around and get excited about.
Yeah, and I think it's just a way for people to like show their appreciation for a company. And I do think Wonderful 101 has like a cult following.
Sure.
For sure. It also seems like it is just one of 4 projects that Platinum is teasing. They set up a website that has just like the number 4 on it in like that Platinum Games font, and there's like little stars in each corner. And after the Wonderful 101 Kickstarter was revealed, then like Wonderful 101 was placed there.
Oh,
so it seems like there are 3 more projects yet to be revealed. The Wonderful 101 Kickstarter runs through March 6th. And at this point, they're on to stretch goals, which is just more content. And they've already announced like a speed run. And then like I think at 1.5 million, there is going to be like a new 2D side-scrolling element to it. So it'll be interesting to see how far this goes.
Yeah, it'll also be interesting to see what the Switch and like PlayStation 4 ports are like, because the Wii U version had a lot of like the touchscreen integration. Like you were sort of drawing like designs and symbols on the touchpad in order to like make things happen. So like I wonder, like I hope that it's not that you have to like pull off the Joy-Con and like wave it around like the world ends with you or whatever.
Yeah, there's just part of me that's like, we're giving people, probably it'll end up being like significantly more than $1 million to release a game that already exists.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how is that different from like Tropical Freeze coming to the Switch?
We didn't
pay
up front, right? Exactly.
But a lot of people did. A lot of people pre-ordered that game, right?
Yeah,
like they saw it was announced and pre-ordered it.
You're right.
And spent
that's true.
$60
totally
on it
true.
instead of $50.
Yeah,
like
that's completely true.
Yeah.
And finally, are you like me still trying to get those SNES controllers for Nintendo Switch? Like the Super NES Online. They have like the Joy-Con rails, all that kind of stuff. They were released back last September or something.
Yeah.
Disappeared immediately. Yep. Yeah, I wasn't able to get one.
Neither was I. Not that I didn't like try super hard.
Oh, I thought for whatever reason, I thought you did get them.
No.
Oh, friend of the show, June, did successfully get them. They were, I feel like since then, it has pretty much been radio silence. They've shown up in other parts of the world, but none here in America. They were weirdly briefly made available on Nintendo's website last Thursday for just like a very few minutes.
Yeah.
And if you go to just like the Nintendo Switch Online site, they have a message on it that's like more information in January. But then you click into it, and now there's a message on like the actual page that says more information coming in February 2020.
Okay, so this thing is a mess.
It feels which is so weird because the NES ones
were
super easy.
I wonder if do you think there's more demand for the Super NES ones? Because there's still, like, just like the NES controllers, they are only compatible with the Super NES Switch Online, right?
Well, and yeah, I don't.
You can't use them on other games.
It feels it's very weird to me. I have no idea what's going on because the NES ones have like they still exist. They put them on sale. Like you could get them for cheaper not that long ago. So they either made way too many of those or they've continued to manufacture them. But yeah, I don't know if it's manufacturing problems, demand problems.
That's weird.
The SNES ones have kind of been a mess a little bit.
All right, well, so we'll check back in February. It's February now, and we don't have any more information. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. Okay, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. And if you do, and email us, Mark might send you a signed copy of my comic book.
Did you? Speaking of which, I can't remember when we were plugging it at the top of the show. Did you say the date that it was coming out?
I don't know. February 12th. So it is a week from tomorrow if you are listening to this on the day it comes out.
But,
wow.
Yeah, and you should, for real, like go to a local comic book store or Comixology or wherever you get your comics and pre-order it.
Yeah.
Because one, like, if you have not bought comic books in the past, you're interested in buying this one. Comic book stores don't always stock like a ton of copies of something.
Yeah.
So it's super painless to pre-order one. So it's usually a good idea to do that if you can at this point. I assume you still could.
I mean, I think the final order cutoff has already happened, but like the Transformers is a big enough draw that I think most comic book stores do tend to get a couple issues beyond what they know they're going to sell, hoping to sell them. And I actually, I don't know. I would put this to anyone. Does the fact that it's a Valentine's Day issue make it more or less sellable? I have no idea. Is that
this
make it
is
more
not
appealing?
to scare anybody off from going into a comic book store
day
of release.
Which are weird, by the way. Comic book stores are weird. But if you go in and you ask for the issue where the robots are smooching, they will point you to
and
my
maybe
issue.
There'll be somebody playing Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, maybe. Might be happening right in the back of the store. You don't know. No, I am actually very proud of the issue and would love for people to check it out. But review this show. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. There's also a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers, not pre-ordering Wonderful 101 and saying thank you for listening.
Ever wanted to hear from the neighbor at 9 Cloverfield Lane? Or what if I told you that Dr. Loomis's worst patient wasn't Michael Myers? I'm Adam Peacock, host of the podcast My Neighbors Are Dead. Join me each week as I talk to the lesser-known characters from your favorite horror films. Each week is an all-new, fully improvised journey into the unknown featuring friends and luminaries from the worlds of comedy, horror, and beyond.
New episodes every Tuesday on Campfire Media. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen.
Campfire.